Welcome to the Dental and Mental Podcast. I'm Dr. Galen Detrik.
I'm Dr. Davina Detrik.
And we are going to be talking to you about the business and the mindset of dentistry.
Welcome back to the Dental and Mental Podcast. I'm Dr. Galen Detrik.
I'm Dr. Davina Detrik.
And this is part two.
Part two, but it's still a continuation of part one because we didn't change clothes. Anyways. All right. So
says the person who's wildly into fashion and then the person who's not. I'm wearing what'd you call these, pajamas?
Well, you had a really nice shirt on and then you looked good for this episode and then you came back in a hoodie and a tracksuit.
We'll wait till part three.
Okay.
Part two.
Okay, part
two. We're talking about fuck around and find out.
Right, because we were talking about range. And if you're really comfortable operating in a range where it's like you don't say too much, you don't want to stir the waters, you don't want to rattle the boat, when is a good time to say, enough is enough, I actually think I need access to something more than, keeping the peace, passivity, not speaking up?
Yeah, I mean, don't you think that some of it has to do, and obviously this is somewhat person specific, but our innate sense of justice, when it's being trampled too much and compromised too much, that gets to a place where you're like, we need some justice.
Right.
We need something to happen because I don't like the free reign that injustice is having.
Right.
I do think that's a big part of it, right? And it's also when it starts to affect, for a lot of people, is when it starts to affect more than just you. If it's just you, or at least that's perception, maybe you can tolerate it, maybe whatever. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that's a lot of people that will take that perspective. But then it starts to affect your kids or your spouse or your team or your community. And then it starts to hit different.
I think that that's such a good point, the point about injustice, because I think we have a couple of situations that are happening in our life. And I think where we moved from being more peaceful to like, let's go, was when we really started to consider the people who were going to be taken advantage of if we didn't stand in the gap. One of our primary bills right now is attorneys.
Yeah.
For different things, not even the same thing.
No. Yeah, for two different things right now.
Yeah, for different things. Dylan and I are doing our best to bring Galen into the modern times
of pop culture.
into the modern times. But a long story short,
Obviously.
They have stole our branding for Thrive Live.
Yeah. Ripped it off actually completely. Name, color scheme, font weight.
Yep. Everything.
I took a screenshot of our brand, Thrive Live, from 2020. Actually, it was from 2019 that we started marketing it. I sent it to our attorney, who is our attorneys. Screw with them. These guys are some of the best in the world. Actually, they're globally known and recognized and reputed IP, trademark, copyright law firm. And he took one look at it and he goes, well, that's blatant. And
right.
It didn't take a rocket scientist to look at the two and be like, oh, no, it's kind of tough. It's like, wow, that's the exact same.
Well, to the point where our kids came home and thought that it was ours.
My entire team, actually. So we got the audacity they sent to my office. We got their brochures for this one for 2025. And Kadina and Halika came in. They were my assistants, and they're like, "Oh, Doc, what are you doing? When are you doing this? This looks really cool." And I'm like, "That they fucking stole it from me." And they're like, "What?" And that is the problem. And we have dentists all the time who are like, "Oh, I'm going to be going to your event," and you're like, "It's not my event."
Right.
It's not my event.
Right. Yep. And so really thinking about, okay, so in the context of the conversation we're having, it's like, okay, well, what's the big deal? On Thrive, we have enough creative energy to do something different, recreate whatever it is, right? So that's not the thing.
And that's been our approach. Our approach for years has always been, well, then we'll just, our source of creativity, for me, it's my creator. Like whatever he gives, we just take and we're channels for that. So there's not like it's not like a finite supply. You and I can always, you, me, Dylan,
Right.
we can create and we'll keep creating.
Shein, yeah. It's cheap shit, cheap knockoff shit, which is what Shein is. They steal a bunch of stuff from actual fashion houses,
Yeah.
make cheap knockoff shit, sell it for $14, and that's what that brand is.
And is it like a really big corporation type deal?
Oh, yeah, it's huge. And not only does, like from the standpoint of, the earth, it's just a bunch of trash. All these clothes go into the trash. And it's a huge waste and burden because they have such a cycle of making cheap knockoff shit that people wear once and throw in the trash. So it's a huge problem. It's disgusting.
Right. Very briefly, when we first sent a cease and desist letter, the response was basically like, who this? Right? And go pound sand. And the feeling that we got, and as we kind of barked up that tree a little bit to kind of see what our options were, is like, we have vastly more money than you. So come after us. We'll just outspend you into oblivion. And that is the standard story for so many I'm sure for a lot of these smaller fashion houses or people who are just trying to, have a cool idea, a great sense of fashion, something fun that's new.
Well, a lot of them are small creators, right? So a small creator
get bought out.
Has a different price point because they're actually sewing something by hand.
Right.
And you have something mass produced for 14 cents and you're like, there goes my whole design.
Right. I shouldn't even say bought out. They weren't paid anything for it.
No.
Just like we weren't. It's like, we'll just take your idea and then we know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. And they knew what they were doing because as soon as we put a cease and desist letter in their lap, they went and trademarked it.
They went and trademarked our
Thrive Live
name,
which
our
we have prior
branding.
arts, can easily
Right.
with dates, receipts, all the rest, prove undeniably we were first, had been using it first in the same space. This isn't like a different company and industry.
Right. They're not selling pet food.
Education dental conference.
Right.
That's all it comes down to.
To be able to do that. But this is why you and I were talking about this the other day where it's like, oh, okay, do you just not care about it? So we're in conversations again over the same thing with our attorneys. So back to the point of this podcast, it's like, okay, when do you say, who cares, move on to something different? And when do you decide to say, you know what, I don't think I will do that.
You're right.
Right?
Right.
Like really kind of enough's enough.
Well, when you're sent to my office, it's enough.
Yeah,
Please
right?
take me off of the mailing list.
Yes, right?
Have some respect.
So, yeah. So we have people working on that problem right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Leave it at that.
The other thing, we have other things that are going on within Thrive that also require lawyers.
Yeah.
Right? Also require lawyers. And it's really to do with a difference in integrity and parting ways on the difference in integrity.
In light of our previous part one, when you're so afraid of conflict and you grow that habit, right? You nurture and curate that habit of hiding from an upfront conversation, which may not go in your favor.
Right.
That's part of the deal with conflict, right? You and I might have a disagreement, and if I say something and you're like, we're not doing that, like, or I say that to you, or our kids, right? We tell that to our kids all the time. At least ask. Ask for permission and be told no, but learn the skill set of asking and boldly asking, right? But being willing to hear what the truth is. This person has habitually trained manipulation and lying and lack of integrity and hiding for decades. And so that's what we're dealing with.
Right. Yep, absolutely. And so to the point of this conversation, it could be like, okay, well, let people be, right? Like if you want to do that, then let it be. But what we're talking about is if we continue to not face things head on, right? So it's having range. If we elect over and over for peace because we're afraid of getting into conflict, then you have to start getting your way another way, which is what we're talking about. Through manipulation, hiding, lying, all of that. And so part of why we're having this conversation, even on this podcast, is don't be afraid to have range. Know that you can have hard conversations. Know that you can do hard things. Know that when things are put in your lap, that are difficult and challenging, you get the opportunity to rise and change who you are and see new parts of yourself and become somebody different. Those are good things.
Yeah, they are. It's an opportunity.
Right? Those are good things.
Yeah. In complete candor, when I think about this topic and it's like, oh man, you have 2 lawsuits right now and you're lawyered up and all the rest. Just my upbringing and my background, because my dad went through one of these as well. And it was really hard on our family. There's a stigma around it for me,
Around
litigation.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah.
Because it really hurt my family. And my dad, genuinely, man, people probably say this about their parents or their whoever it is that they love, that they're the best at what they do. But my dad was a custom home builder until about 4 years ago, until 2020. And genuinely, the highest of reputations, just an incredible, OCD and meticulous in everything he did.
Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, eh? That was a Hispanic A, not a Canadian A.
We'll take both. You're dressed like a Canadian right now. You look the part. Watching him go through something that seemed so unjust was really difficult as a family. I remember I was young when it happened, but it took a lot from our family, And I remember we didn't even have money to really even hire attorneys. And so for a stint of time until he found somebody who would help, he was representing himself, it was painful to watch. It was painful to watch because my dad's that's not the way he's geared.
Right.
That's not who you get as your defense attorney. He's just a good builder. He's just a man of integrity. And he's always been that. He's got such a big heart. So there's a stigma around it from what it took for my family and the pain that it was for years. And so when we started, there's a sense of like almost feeling like a failure because you're having to get lawyers. It's weird. Like that's in my head is like, am I doing something wrong? How did we get here? But both of these fights were brought to us. We didn't go get lawyers and we're like, well, forget these guys.
Yes.
They were brought to our door.
Yes.
And actually we chose in both scenarios to get creative with a solution that would be very peaceable.
Oh yeah, this is not the first.
It was not the first line.
Right. This is not what we would choose out of the gate.
And I think this is where it was really important to realize that I would love to choose peace 9 times out of 10. And it has been so helpful having you and having your instinct and your gut, but also the way you're brought up. I'm grateful for it because when it comes down to like, let's go fight, it's so much easier to do that when you're in it together. And knowing that you've got my back and I've got yours and like we're on the same page, we could lose both fights.
Yeah.
And if we do from a law perspective, so be it.
Right.
But I'm happy to do it with you.
I feel that way about you as well. Like, I think that because we're paired together, if my natural instinct would be to fight about something right out of the gate, that is not good, right? Again, with the idea of range, that is not somewhere that I want to play all my songs, is in war, right? And so I think when we get to that stage, it is because we have exhausted all peaceful options.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's different. It's like, well, this is really the last option because we've exhausted all the other ones. And I think from that perspective, you can sleep well at night. Hey, this is our stuff. Stop using it. And essentially what they said was, no, we do have more money than you. So we're going to keep on doing what we want to do. Like,
call the bluff.
Yeah, get lost. That was that conversation, right?
Yeah. We'll tie you up in lawsuits, then you'll be buried in debt and you'll never come out of it and we'll win.
Yeah.
We'll win through time and attrition.
We'll destroy everything that you've created. Okay, well, and then with the second scenario that we're talking about, everything had already been settled for a contract that both parties were happy with.
Mm-hmm.
And so
based off of 7 to almost 8 years of an understanding and an agreement that had been, this isn't like a recent thing, just a history, built history, unfortunately, that was completely undermined in a moment.
Right. Absolutely. So when we have an agreement that we're like, hey, you're good with it, we're good with it, that sounds great. And then everything shifts and there's a whole behind the scenes being plotted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then we have no choice but to face that new information head on. Right. There's at that point, there's nothing else that you can do about it.
Well, and again, that betrayal was not met with, well, then we're going to sue you. That betrayal was met with, let's get on a phone.
Let's get on a phone call
and talk this out. That was what I asked for. And I was met with, you should get an attorney and they can talk from now on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, then that's what you have to do. But if we're going to do that, we're going to get the best.
Right.
Why are dentists stuck watching CE that looks like it was made in 1995?
I've lectured from every stage you can possibly imagine. We have created virtual courses around this, and this is the amalgamation of 12 years of practice wrapped into one single course. Not only is it all that you'd ever want to know, but it's also what to charge, how to increase your fees, how to market it, how to photograph it. Fracture is the masterclass that is an homage to the technique that transformed my life and career, that took me from $50 an hour in juvie to a $5 million fee-for-service practice. When you see the price for this course, your jaw should drop. It costs more actually to buy probably a carpal or two of composite to do the class 4 than it does to actually learn everything I just described and so much more. This course, as you can tell, I have tremendous passion and excitement for. Join Fracture today.
So I hope that sharing this is encouragement for anybody else who is going through this, because I know that people get in these situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've walked through a lot of these situations with so many
good
doctors.
People. A lot of good, kind, quiet, peace-loving people get caught in this.
Yes.
Because that's the person. I was actually talking to a coaching client this morning, and that's what came up is just to kind of like be careful, because this person is so kind and could be seen by so many around them as being timid or weak or whatever else because they don't speak as much. But actually there's a strength in this person that's, one of the most crucial pieces of this person's identity. Like you can just see it in them. But it's a strength that doesn't flex all the time. And it's the people that don't flex and run their mouths and are super loud all the time. Those are the ones that get chosen for the chopping block by the big ones.
Well, and that's why
the Temus and the Sheeans.
That's why we wanted to have this conversation, is because sometimes you need to remind people who you are.
For others as well.
You need to remind people who you are. It's like, it is that old, do not mistake my kindness for weakness. Yes, I will give you everything. I am happy to serve. I want to be a part of anything that's good. But if that stops, do not think that I am going to roll over and play dead. Right?
That's like Victor Marx's thing, right? The dangerous gentleman. Be a gentleman and be a gentleman first. But you have to be dangerous to be a real gentleman, because there's safety that comes with a gentleman. And if you do not know how to protect, then how gentle can you really be? And I love that. You have to have a range to truly be actually even trusted.
Do you remember our self-defense class? Do you remember what Mr. King said?
I was just trying to be you.
Do you remember? Someday we'll have to, on a podcast, someday we'll have to talk about our self-defense experience. You guys, it was wild.
It was wild.
It was wild. But do you remember what Mr. King said?
He said a lot of things. You have to.
Do you remember what he said though about how he can be calm anywhere because he knows he could probably kill you?
Yes. Yeah. That the knowledge that he had of his abilities and skill set is actually what allowed him to be peaceful and gentle and calm in situations that were easy to get out of hand. And actually that probably stopped a lot of fights. Didn't he say that? And he's like, a lot of fights have been averted because I have such that energy and it's felt. So you dissuade problems because of how dangerous you are. Yeah,
it's Dylan in the show notes. Can we link that video where that fighter guy? This video was so good.
Rex Quando.
Yeah.
No, do you guys remember this video on social? It was like a guy who was a professional fighter and some other guy was really yelling and spitting in his face and getting wild.
It's at a baseball game.
Yes.
And it's a UFC fighter, and the guy who was spitting in his face and all the rest didn't know who it was.
Right.
It's like, because that guy had fought so much, he knew how to control himself.
Yes, he was completely
destroyed.
He
that
was
guy.
completely unbothered, right? And I think that is the point of this conversation. Access your range so that you can be unbothered because you know and have the confidence to understand that should you have to go there, you'll be okay. You will be okay.
Yeah.
And it's not your first line of defense ever. But I don't want people to forget they have access to a completely different part of themselves.
Right. Well, that is how we know. That's actually how you get to do more of the range that you're comfortable with. You have to be able to go to these two places to protect and insulate this,
Right.
And so I think that most, this is not a new thought by any stretch, but I think that most warriors would consider themselves more peaceful than they are warrior because that they don't want to go to war. But because they have the ability to do that, it's like that's what actually gives us, even in our own country, like that's what gives you freedom is the fact that people are willing and able to go fight. And if you think about the reputation you can then have, it keeps some people in line that really need to be kept in line because they're afraid of you. And that is a form of peace.
Peace through strength, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So this is just your friendly reminder that anybody who's listening to this, if you need to access something else, give yourself permission to.
Yeah.
Because if you get yourself locked in, you start becoming a shitty person because you're so afraid of confrontation that you do and act in really awful ways just to avoid it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully the permission that's given to docs and you don't even have to be in a lawsuit or in something like that, but if you're in a situation where you feel like injustice is being propagated, where you're being taken advantage of or people that you care about are being taken advantage of, I think we're entering into a phase, the world kind of feels this way a little bit, where you just got to stand up. It is the fuck around and find out, like we need more peaceful people, peace-loving people to say, yeah, stop. Right. Because those are the people, if we can be the ones that decide the narrative, our default is peace. The others are just that small dog that wants to fucking nip at your heels all the time. Like, kick it.
Right.
Get out of here,
Right. And sometimes you have to.
Yeah. Sometimes you do.
All right. Perfect. Well, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah. Part 3 where I changed. No, there's no part 3.
There's no part 3.
All right. See you guys soon. Thank you for listening and or watching the Dental and Mental Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or any others for that matter, feel free to tap that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple, Amazon, as well as Spotify. While you're there, why not leave us a review up to 5 stars? And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and leave us a comment. Let us know what topic you want us to discuss next.
If you like what you heard today and you want to be involved in the Thrive world from coaching to courses or just to connect with us, go to thethrivedentist.com.